Right. I mean, the purposes of today is essentially to have I guess, a robust discussion. It's been put on by Hotwire, so thank you very much to Hotwire. And we assembled a round table of panellists also from Groupon and from Sofitel here in London, and also from TripAdvisor. So before we kick off, the framework for this was that we wanted to kind of get a sense of how the travel industry broadly, but in particular about the kind of the sectors that you represent, as kind of the changes it's seen over the last 2 years as a result of, I guess, economic challenges and also changes in consumer behaviour. So before we get into some of the questions that I've got here, and everyone else is welcome to put their hand up and ask questions as well, what I would like you to do is just kind of introduce yourself very briefly, your name, your position, and just talk to us very quickly about some of the challenges that you've seen over the last couple of years with relation to your business and the sector in which it operates. And then we'll go through each of the four of you, and then we'll kind of crack on from there. So you on the end there, tell us who you are.
Yeah. My name is Gilbert Faddoul, Revenue Manager of Sofitel London St James. The couple of changes in the recent couple of years, we noticed that there's a lot of shift of customer behaviors. So what normally business client book through this channel or leisure client book on that other channel, we've seen a lot of overlapping and changes. So of course, we had to get grip of that, and the booking patterns as well, how far in advance and how early in advance, by segment, and that's pretty much the challenges. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Fulvia Montresor from Hotwire. I'll step back just for a second and give you all a quick intro on who we are in case you don't know. We sell discount travel, so hot rate hotels, you sometimes hear them talked about as secret rooms or mystery rooms. Basically, you don't know the hotel name, you don't know the exact location, but you do know the general whereabouts, the amenities, the star rating, and what we offer customers that are really flexible and can buy in this model is up to 50% savings. What we offer hotels is a way to discount without broadcasting it to disrupt their general pricing strategies. So that's us in a nutshell. We were born in a recession in the US in 2000, so we know a little bit about general economic downturns. We launched in the UK a year ago. In terms of the trends that we're seeing during the economic downturn, the consumer behaviour actually changes. There's a couple of things that help us out and help out alternate models. One, we see that the UK traveller still wants to travel. It's important to the psyche, so that's still holding up. However, two, they are taking more shorter trips. They want more bang for their buck. Still, Focusrite just released some stats. 42% of trips are 3 days or less. That's up 4% from last year. So that's a significant difference. That plays really well to sort of short city breaks. And three, they're much more cost conscious. And we've done some surveys and sort of asked about expectations about spend going in. And all of a sudden, folks really are feeling the tightening of the belts. And so they're willing to try new models. On the hotel side, the trends that we're seeing are, of course, in an economic downturn, lower occupancy. And so they're willing to try out new models as well so that they can fill their rooms. And so we've had hundreds of hotels sign up with us in the last year alone. And I'll leave it there for initial trends that we're seeing.
Okay.
So my name's Emma Shaw. I'm from TripAdvisor. Just a quick introduction in case anyone isn't too familiar with what TripAdvisor is. You never know. So we launched 12 years ago in the US. We now have 75 million reviews and opinions on the site. That works out to about 50 every single minute. We're now in 30 countries with 21 different languages supported on the site. And I think what perhaps some people don't realise is it's not just hotels. We have restaurants, we have attractions. We also have a meta search for flights and rail. So yeah, it tends to be that kind of one-stop shop for most of your travel research. It's not a transactional site. We don't sell any holidays. We don't sell anything. People go on to research, and I think that's why that's quite an interesting thing to see. What kind of trends we've been noticing. we don't necessarily know what people are booking, but we do know what people are looking at. And I think people are a lot more savvy now. I think the last couple of years, people haven't necessarily stopped going on holiday. They're just an awful lot more fussy about where they're going. It's still probably the largest purchase someone's going to make in a year, their holiday. So they want to make sure it's absolutely right. So we are seeing them looking at more and more reviews and more different hotels before they make that decision, before they click on the check price button. So that's certainly a huge trend we've seen. And also the increase in mobile, the explosion of smartphone ownership. So we've had to adapt to that, and we've had to make sure that we have our apps, we have our mobile sites, because people do want to use their mobile when they get to their destination. And I think there's perhaps a little bit of a cost motive to that as well. When they get to their destination, they want to know where is the best value restaurant, where is is this attraction I'm about to go to good value for money. I want to see what other travellers have thought. So that's me.
Okay, and finally.
Hello. So my name is Maria Raga, and I'm basically responsible for the travel platform in Groupon. So for those of you that don't know what Groupon is, it's a daily deal site that started operating in the UK back in 2009. We started offering one daily deal, and we evolved the offering into products and travel quite recently. So travel started a year ago, and under the name of Getaways, so Groupon Getaways. And so our aim is to continue providing experiences that inspire our customers, our subscribers. And some of the challenges that I see, so from the customer point of view, the changes that I've seen in just 1 year is that the more complete the offer is, the more successful it is. So you can just offer a hotel deal, and that could be successful, but the more complete that it is in terms of flights or ideas to, take a tour in the river or go to a museum, the more successful. So that tends to tell me that people are willing to be inspired by whatever we offer. And from the merchant point of view, I see a lot more integration between our deals and their marketing channels. So they are working more and more closely with us, and we're having more and more customers that are coming to us to help them with their marketing channels.
Okay, thank you. So this is the panel. So, I mean, in particular, we've got in Hotwire here with the opaque model, as we call it in the industry, and what Groupon does, which is the daily deal service. Especially with Groupon, you launched at the height of, or just as the global economy was starting to tank, to put it frankly, and you launched this time last year with the opaque model. Was there a particular reason why Hotwire waited, for example, until last year before it launched in the UK? Because it could see that there was an opportunity because of the way the economy was reacting and consumer behaviour. And also the same type of question to you, that Groupon only came here in 2009 and specifically got into travel. Is that because you saw that there was an opportunity? So first of all, Hotwire.
I wish we could say we were so perfect in our timing, but it's just fortuitous for us. Regardless of whether or not there's an economic downturn, Hotwire does really well. It's done really well in the US for over 10 years. As I said, we launched in 2000, so we've been through 2 severe economic downturns. We've also been through upsides. And even when the economy is doing really well, we find that on the hotel side, hotels on average run at about 60% occupancy. That means 40% of the rooms are unsold. They want to be able to sell them. They want to be able to get new customers in the door that buy food and beverage and will come back again. Customers, on the other hand, we've done bunches of surveys, and there's a certain set of people, we think it's about 10% of the population, that fit our psychographics. They are just price hunters. They love the value. They love getting the good deal, and they love to be able to get the most bang out of the buck in terms of not going necessarily to the lowest price, but doing what we do really well, which is 4-star hotels at 2-star prices. So even in an upturn, we do well. And so really, we didn't time this to be here for an economic downturn. We timed it because we really felt that we were stable enough in terms of our European inventory. We've been selling European hotels as well as Asian hotels to the American consumer for many, many years. We felt that we were ready to go into the UK, and we felt that the UK...
Okay, we'll come to you, Gilbert, in a second about the 60% occupancy rate statistic that you mentioned there. But Groupon's perspective, first of all.
So similar to what Emma has said, regardless of the economic situation, we didn't decide to go into travel because we basically continued the offering in terms of daily deals. We started with restaurants and everything that had some kind of like a local appeal to the subscribers, and then naturally we moved into travel because it was the logical extension to our offering, not necessarily because I guess we were lucky in how everything has gone, but I don't know if the economic recession in Europe had. I don't think it had a negative effect. In fact, we have grown a lot in the past year. So
yeah, I think from an outsider's perspective, or somebody as an industry watcher, I think it was a logical progression for Groupon to move into travel because,
logical evolution.
And certainly I sense in the last year or so that it's moved on from the teeth whitening perception that everybody else had to being a slightly more kind of, there are other products available. So 60% occupancy, I'm presuming that that's not relevant to your hotel here in London, though.
Maybe not 60%. It's more of the maybe 80% mark. But I think a very fair point, saying that there's a lot of disposable room left to sell, and we all know bedrooms and hotels and airline seats are very perishable. 24 hours, that's it. You cannot sell them anymore tomorrow. So that's why you can yield on the fact that hoteliers want to sell them. But I think I don't believe that Hotwire will generate more demand in general. It just shifts demand from somewhere to another, which is very good because you have to actually go and hunt for steal share of the pie from other competitors. It doesn't really increase the occupancy in a destination, which is very important. You have to steal customers from someone else. But for our hotel, Sofitel in general, there's a really fine line in between being full or selling at the right rate. So if we are at 60% occupancy on a specific night or 40% occupancy on a specific night, the question that should come on the mind of every manager, is it what I can get up to most at this particular day of the year? Is it normal? You can say to your general manager, yes, 40%, because that's what the London is. The market condition is at the moment. It's a Sunday of August month, so it's okay. The other competition are, but the most important question is, it's good to compare how you are in terms of pace versus competition versus last year, previous year, and that will give you the answer whether you have to actually go further and actually turn your efforts towards more opaque rates, Groupon, Hotwire, and other distributors, opaque distributors. So this is the most important question. It's not how much is your occupancy, how are you looking today for next month on a particular day versus same point in time last year, 2 years ago. That is the most important question.
And presumably it's quite unique in London this summer because of the Olympics. Perhaps the data is slightly skewed because there has been so much interest on coming here.
I think it's a very one-off period, and it doesn't only concern Paralympic or Olympic period. It's the entire year. It's a very different consumer behavior or company behavior year where London as a destination it's been a great year. Olympic was fantastic, but as a destination for leisure, it's up to an extent been avoided, up to an extent by companies, big events, big groups. So I don't think you should use this as an example towards your future planning, your strategy. It's been different. So I think it's one of you shouldn't base your strategy.
Okay, we have a question from Tom Hall at Lonely.
I've got a few questions. I'll try and keep it on. I'm very interested in what you said about consumer behaviour in an economic downturn, meaning people taking more shorter trips. To at least, I guess my starting point on that would have been that it might have been the shorter trips that people would have knocked off while retaining their longer trips. I wonder if you could speak a little bit more about that. And then a question for everyone really is either particular destinations that you see as catching people's attention right now that are really on the rise, or indeed particular international markets from London's perspective that are up and coming.
Great, so I'll take the first one and take a quick stab at the second one before I pass it over. But in terms of taking more shorter trips, it's a really good question because I don't think we have the complete picture there. There's a couple of different impressions of it. One is I think people just need more pressure relief. So it's a stressful time in general. When there's an economic downturn, folks are stressed at work. They're being worked harder. They just need more releases, seriously. Secondly, I think you can do drive locations for a short weekend, train locations. Thirdly, I think there's some other factors at play that are not necessarily related to the economy. So just the fact that you've got this rise of low-cost carriers, EasyJet, Ryanair, you can do a short trip at sort of a whim. Hey, I've got this £40 rate for this weekend, and I'm going to do this. And some of those longer trips are they're very difficult to take when companies are running lean. You can't say you're out for 3 weeks. So I think there's that going on. In terms of destinations that we're seeing great deals on, we're seeing some fantastic discounts year on year in places like Prague, Geneva, Budapest that are 30% or more down year on year. So I think there are these great locations, and that's hopefully where people are going to start flocking to as they're looking for the deals.
Well, to answer your second question about the nationality, very briefly, I think this year is a bit of a one-off year. We had seen a lot of shift in terms of nationality coming in London, but we've seen a drop in the domestic market because of the Queen Jubilee long period of time off. They take 3 days off and they had 10 days off. A lot of people taking holidays during the Olympic, and you heard about all the people renting out their place during the Olympic. So we did feel, and then there's a lot of new markets coming up. A lot of the BRIC markets, so Brazil, Russia, India, China, and then add to that the Middle East as was is quite upcoming, and they're a bit more tech savvy, and they just been talking with you about how they're using the iPad, they're booking on OLTAs, so they're changing a lot. So a lot of new, but this year is again it's a bit of a one-off in terms of nationality.
Okay, thank you. Another question round there, I believe, for a second. Tell us who you are and where you're from as well, please.
Yeah, I'm Rosie Tompkins from CNN, and I produce Business Traveller, so I'm coming more from a business travel perspective. And what we've seen a lot this year is obviously the emerging markets are booming and they're bucking the trend in terms of aviation and travel. In terms of leisure travel, are you seeing the opposite? I mean, are people doing shorter trips and staying closer to home, or do you find that actually people are spending more to go further because they think that it'll be cheaper when they get there? What's happening in terms of recession on that respect?
Yeah, the microphone's yours.
All right, I'll take it. Mixed bag, and it really depends by country and some of their trends. So in terms of and some of it's very stereotypical. Germans are still doing their really long trips, and therefore they are looking at more of these emerging markets that are further away destinations because they're doing more of those sort of 7 to 14 days. For most of the Brits, if they're fitting in a mid sort of that 1 week vacation, but a lot of the shorter trips are happening. The shorter trips obviously are not going out to those really far destinations. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. And I think you can actually have both of those destinations growing quite widely just because they're not just getting the British consumer or just the American consumer. It's a sort of mixed bag. So is that a yes and no answer for you?
Okay, so we're going to move on and get away from some of the economy stuff and trying to drag this into the consumer behaviour. Now, some say that it's actually technology and the proliferation, even more of a proliferation of the web that is changing consumer behaviour, or perhaps coupled with what's been going on in the economy. And I just wondered if anyone on the panel here could talk to how they're seeing the differences in the way people are searching. And let's just say search via the web. I mean, we do have still a very sizable offline travel agency community that we shouldn't dismiss. But in terms of what's been going on with search, I mean, are we seeing, let's say to the hotelier perspective first of all, are you seeing any changes over the last few years in the way people are searching for your product or searching for a destination and then coming across your product? Or are you still reliant on your deals with OTAs and things like that?
I'm going to start first with... because it's not only about individual and leisure guests, it's more of the business side as well and the groups. We're noticing a a reduction of requests, but an increase in conversion. So we're getting more genuine and more not shopping around. I'm not saying that some are not genuine, but some will be actually, let me look in London, what is the price, or let me compare with Paris. We're getting less of that, less shopping around for the business group side. Less request, more conversion, and more genuine, serious request, if I may say. This is for the business side groups. For the leisure side, it's always been like this, but it's more acute now. Everyone is aware of TripAdvisor, of Expedia, Hotwire, and various OLTAs. And actually, we do notice, and it's true, that a lot of people do look around in the OLTAs, find a hotel they like, go to TripAdvisor, get the feeling of what it is, of the destination as well, and actually go back to the site. And actually, it doesn't mean they will book on the site, they will compare. See what, normally, I'm talking about Accor and Sofitel, we have great parity, the prices are the same, but it's not the case in other hotels. So they always compare the market.com or, all these that actually compare rates, and they see where they can get the best deal. But they tend to shop more and spend more time looking around. And you get people with the phone and say, I can see this online. So they know their stuff more. That's for the individual leisure. So that's to answer your question.
Yeah, so TripAdvisor, then, whether you like it or not, you often have a tendency to sit in the middle of this kind of the purchase funnel with people, especially when they're looking for hotels, even more so with tours and activities more recently. I mean, what are you noticing in terms of on the B2B side with hoteliers that are essentially advertising with you because they want people to go through to their site? I mean, are there any kind of significant changes in that behaviour with people coming to your site via search or through other methods?
I'm not sure there's any particular changes, but I know certainly from both, in case you don't know, our business model is advertising, both CPC and CPM, and certainly the targeted leads that those divisions are able to provide to the advertisers means that really throughout the downturn they've always been able to keep delivering to their clients, which has meant that in terms of advertising, in terms of the commercial success of TripAdvisor, it's always performed very well. And I think that's partly to do with our traffic. We are now the world's largest travel site, according to Comscore. And I think even in Europe, where we've seen quite a lot of problems and issues economically, there's been a 20% increase in traffic to TripAdvisor in the last year. And even
just on that, Emma, is that because they're more discerning? Because they're looking at their pennies or pounds and thinking, I need to really make sure that I'm finding the right place, or is that just your natural organic growth?
I think it's a little bit of both. There's no doubt that the customer is a lot more picky now. They are a lot more discerning. They've got X amount of money to spend and they want to spend it wisely. And if that means spending a little bit longer on their research, then that's what they're prepared to do, and they're an awful lot more savvy about how to do that. They're not just looking at brochures now. They're not just relying on a travel agent. They want that wider breadth of opinion, and they want to look at photos. They want to see what other people think, not just the management, not just the hotel.
Really interesting. Whenever I look at TripAdvisor, and I guess that whenever I look at TripAdvisor and I see the user rating out of 5, and it really feels like that it takes the place, and in many ways in a preferential way for the user, to a star rating. And I wonder if panel feels that star ratings are dead, or do they still have value? Are they still understood? Or, I don't know.
Yeah, very, very good question. I don't think TripAdvisor would say that star ratings are dead. I think the problem is they're just not universal. So 4 stars in one country is completely different to a 4-star in another. So I think that is why some consumers feel a little bit more reassured with the parity across TripAdvisor. If you see 4.5 bubbles, you've got a pretty good idea of what that means in all countries. But I don't think they're dead. I think there's still a place for them. I think there's some travellers who are very reassured if they they see, an AA star or whatever it happens to be from Visit Britain. So, no, I don't think they're dead. I think there's perhaps just a little bit more education for the star givers, if you like, to teach people about what they mean in different countries and what they actually stand for. And sometimes it's about facilities, but sometimes it really just means do they have 24-hour reception? So I think there's confusion.
I mean, just on that point, Emma, though, effectively TripAdvisor has replaced the star rating system, which is what you can't say, but that's pretty much what has happened, really. And you're just laughing for the purposes of the recording there. So, from Groupon's perspective, it's interesting because, Groupon has come along, and especially with the travel side of things. When you're talking to, whether it's hoteliers or other suppliers of travel-related deals that are coming through, where do you sense that they are taking their spend away from in order to spend with you for that particular deal? Is it through their traditional channels? Are they reining in their advertising in order to work with you? Because it's not free to work with Groupon. So where do you sense that they've kind of taken their business away from to plonk it with you?
So you mean hoteliers in general?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that it's such a different approach to work for Groupon. You've got hoteliers that will use us as a last-minute resource, which obviously is not what we recommend. You have hoteliers that deal with us at the very beginning of their marketing budget. So it really depends the approach of the merchant to work with Groupon. There's not a standard way. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay. I'm not sure if you've answered the question.
So your answer is, if they work with Groupon, they are going to work with somebody. They might not work with another provider or another channel, right?
Yes.
It really depends on the.
Yeah, but is there an overall kind of sense of where they've kind of not
I don't see there's a pattern or a change or anything. Just you see different ways of working with us.
Yeah. Okay. One of the areas that's quite interesting and.
But sorry, can I ask?
Please.
I would like to know why you're asking this question. What would be your answer?
My answer is I'm just a journalist moderating the session. I don't work in the industry.
Is it you would expect something particular? That's why.
No, I have no sense of where that might be coming from. So it may be from things like pay-per-click advertising in Google search, for example.
I see.
But I have no data, which is why I asked you.
No, just wondering.
No, that's fine. One of the new models that's come out or has emerged in the last year or so, which I think is quite interesting, and it really is a new type of model, is this idea of the late booking via mobile. So we've started to see sites like Hotel Tonight, for example, which was a business that really could only exist because of mobile. So for those that don't understand what Hotel Tonight is, it's essentially if you're in a city and you need a hotel very quickly, you just look on your mobile and they have a list of all the hotels that have a room available for you that night, and you book it direct on your mobile phone. So there's Hotel Tonight, there's Blink Booking, there's a number of these. So Mr. Hotelier on the end there, Gilbert, is this something that you've either used, or is it something that perhaps you're considering, or are you slightly worried about because it affects your revenue management, which is your role at Sofitel, because you can't do that kind of forward-looking to get a sense of, are we going to fill this damn hotel tonight or not?
First, there's no one Hotel Tonight here. No, we don't use Hotel Tonight, and for a very simple reason, which I'll mention in a second. Before I put my revenue management hat on, I'll just take it off for a second and say that it's always important to think of what will happen after you put this sort of price on the market online. Being a 5-star hotel in central London and being one of the flagship Sofitel in the world, there's always this question of this rate integrity. What is the lowest rate you can put on the market? Because everyone will see it, and a lot of people will see it, and then it's question, say, how come my bedroom rate is twice more expensive than the breakfast I'm having this morning? So for that reason, we don't use. And the rate parity is second point. If I'm selling this rate on Hotel Tonight, I have to sell it on my website, which actually I don't really want to. So that is the point. And but personally, I found Hotel Tonight is a very strong tool. Maybe, I'm not sure in terms of volume because I never use it, but and very similar concept as Hotwire and other opaque websites is desperate inventory. If you're one of the hoteliers, you want to sell every single room of every single night until the hotel is open, You do that. Just check how many rooms you still have to sell. You check the lowest rate that you have on Hotel Tonight, and you just put £1 lower, what we call price dumping. £1 below your cost, even so, just to get volume in. It's really a decision up to market. There's no really an answer, yes, it's the right thing to do, or no, it's the wrong thing to do. It's up to your strategy. Personally, I don't agree with this sort of strategy because it destroys your brand. That's my point. The 5-star hotel, see rates, $100 in the market, $100 because it's normally in dollars that they decided. It just destroys your brand. But if I'm a 1-star, 2-star hotel, individual, no brand recognition behind it, no loyalty program, I'll do it, yes, shall I have seen room. But the question is it the right thing for your company or not to do with that?
Please, microphone again, please, for Tom at Lonely Planet.
I found that a really interesting response, and one of the questions that it put into my mind was the way in which you see some hotels, Hoxton Hotel in London being an example where they take almost a low-cost carrier approach to pricing, and some rooms are available at very attractive lead-in rate, and then you get closer up to
£1.
Yeah, £1. And great room for £1, amazing. You tell your mates, isn't that fantastic? And that feels to me like an interesting intermediate point between price dumping, that phrase you use, and essentially fixing at not fixing, but well. So that's what I'm kind of interested. Yeah, sort of here. Your view.
It's very important to decide on a strategy and stick to it. If that Hoxton thinks that it's a good strategy to do, which I think it does generate a lot of traffic in your website, and yes, your conversion will be low because they have only one room allowance per day, if any. Great traffic, which is a healthy thing to have for new traffic. But it's always good to know where you are, your strategy, and adhere to it, and be honest about it. Yes, I'm selling. Yes, but if you're one of those lucky ones, great. You're gonna get the same service you will be expecting if you pay high rate. Now, it can be a little bit controversial, but if you're one of those lucky ones, might as well just do it. And it's nothing to do with is it the right thing to do or not. It's just a matter of actually, is it the right thing for your business? Maybe it is for them. And I don't want to say discount pricing is not good. It's a very good tool, but it's when and how you do it. If the best thing to do is you sit down, which we do on almost a monthly basis, and you look ahead. We do a call 420 days ahead. We look at the calendar, and you define exactly when is the day where we expect to have a drop in demand or an increase in demand. And when you find the period of time where you can see a strong shoulder period, you say, guys, this is the period where we're going to do a very attractive promotion ahead of time, like they do maybe £1, probably not £1 for us, but we do an attractive deal, prepaid, non-refundable, lock the revenue in, get your base, get your confidence to actually mandate high rate near the time. So not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, this moves us on nicely to, because I deliberately mentioned the Hotel Tonight thing and this model that didn't exist arguably before because of mobile. So let's move on to kind of like mobiles and tablets and things like that. So, I mean, TripAdvisor, because you tell us quite often, how well TripAdvisor is doing with its kind of mobile and tablet traffic and things like that. I mean, are you sensing then that people are just much more engaged with travel websites now via their devices than they were a couple of years ago? And really, where does this go? And interestingly, where does it kind of affect at least our hotelier here and the OTA sat next to them?
Yep, sure. I think just the explosion of smartphone ownership is bound to account for a lot of it. People physically have them on them with wherever they go now. From our point of view, I think a lot of people who use TripAdvisor, they have the desktop experience. They kind of understand what it does for them. They understand how to research their hotel before they go away. But perhaps they're not necessarily thinking yet about the restaurant when they get there, or they're not thinking yet about what sites they want to see when they get there. So that's the trend that we've identified over the last couple of years, that they're logging into the mobile site or they're using the app when they actually get to their destination, particularly in the US, where perhaps roaming fees aren't such a problem, and they're kind of logging on, they're kind of getting the near me now function that we have, and they know straight away that that restaurant, within 500 meters of where I'm standing right now has got a 98% positive rating on TripAdvisor. So they're kind of using it in that location-based context rather than planning further ahead. So perhaps they're being a little bit more spontaneous. That's what the smartphone's allowing them to do.
Okay, so Hotwire here, you're going to have to remind us what your mobile capability is or not, and what you're kind of seeing in terms of an overall trend of how people are using mobile to interact with you, or the brands that you also have on the site.
Absolutely. So echo much of what Emma's saying, in that the explosion of the use of phones, and then the comfort of folks in accessing the mobile web is definitely something that we're seeing as well. In terms of our capabilities, we have a mobile optimized web. We launched in the UK without it. We just had the desktop. As soon as we launched our mobile optimized web, on day one it was more than 10% of our volume with no marketing. So clearly it's very, very important for travellers. It plays really well into Hotwire's model. We, by our very nature, are last minute. You're in the place, a day beforehand, or even in venue, so it's great for the hotels. They're not having to play with anyone new. Customers are already comfortable with us. The sort of interesting things that it's pointed out to us is there's different customer behaviour. You're in a hurry, you're looking at this very small form factor. I don't want to look at 12 results. So for us, it's all about sorting. You have to get the first 3 right. You need to know what is going to be most appealing to this customer, because that's all that's going to get them. And then if you get them with the first 3, we find that the repeat of these customers is fantastic. I think in terms of capabilities, the explosiveness of mobile growth took us a little bit by surprise. And so hopefully we'll have more news about an app soon.
Yeah, well, just tell us though, Fulvia, why did it take you by surprise, given that the industry has been saying for the last 5 years, it's the year of the mobile, it's the year of the mobile, it's the year of the mobile. Certainly since I've been writing about the industry, we've always had the year of the mobile. So why did it take you by surprise?
That is the problem. We've been saying for so many years that it is the year of the mobile. It's kind of like we say it is the year of social booking, that we had basic capabilities. And with the app, we were really thinking that it has to be a very specific segment of customers. I now think that segment is much larger than we'd originally thought. And so hopefully we will have news on that soon.
Okay. Can you pass the microphone? Tell us where you're from, sir.
Peter Myers. I do Reuters business travel bit. First of all, on TripAdvisor, I wanted to know whether... Obviously, you've put in this whole social element to people. It's sort of the end of the anonymous review time, perhaps, or is it? Are people much more inclined to choose something based on several tiers of their social graph? And then social booking generally. And what are you finding? Is it an age thing? Is it younger people still doing it and older people aren't? Any other thoughts on that?
Okay, I mean, just for the background then, so TripAdvisor 2 years ago launched the Trip Friends tool, which is what you're discussing here. So this is the idea that and your CEO himself has said that this is moving away from the wisdom of the crowds to the wisdom of friends. So essentially, someone can tap into their Facebook profile and get advice from friends.
I think rather than moving away from the wisdom of crowds, I think we see it as more of an enhancement. So I think there's still a huge value in the 75 million reviews from strangers, I think they'll always be relevant, because no matter how many friends you have, they're not going to have been to every single destination in the world that you could possibly be thinking about researching. So I think the wisdom of the crowds isn't necessarily going anywhere. I think that's always going to have a place, because of that frequency. You know, if you're getting 50 reviews added every minute, the likelihood is that you're going to be able to read a review that was written perhaps last week. Once you get rid of that scale, the frequency and the relevancy perhaps isn't there anymore. So I don't think it's going. I think when we started working with Facebook, which was about 5 years ago now initially, it was just... we knew we needed to enhance the wisdom of that crowd. It's still there, but we wanted to appeal to the people who really wanted a more personalised experience, who perhaps wanted to know what their friends would recommend for them, which is why, as Kevin said, we launched Trip Friends 2 years ago. And that basically means when you log on to TripAdvisor and you put in any destination you're thinking about going to, at the very top of that page, you'll see your friends' recommendations before you see all of the strangers' recommendations. And the logic being, that if someone knows you better, they're more likely to be able to give you that slightly more personalised idea about whether that place is right for you or not. And then we have evolved that over the years, and you can now actually search for your friends of friends on Facebook. And from a user experience and from a commercial experience, that's very positive for us. We know that people who are Facebook connected on TripAdvisor are 4 times more likely to write a review. And so that content collection from a business model perspective is really, really important.
Okay, just going back to the mobile question, you were nodding furiously over there at Groupon when we were talking about mobile and the way people are using it more and more and more to the Hotwire response. Yeah,
basically because you mentioned that it took you by surprise, the fact that the mobile, and I completely agree on that, because when I start seeing the Groupon Getaways offers in mobile being more and more successful, I was quite surprised, because they tend to be high price compared to the restaurant of £10. So people are willing to make a £500 purchase over the phone, and for me it was really surprising. I would expect people would take more time, would look at other devices, the computer or tablet. So it's definitely something that we're going to go more and more, and completely agree.
Okay, so we're going to do about another 5 or 10 minutes. Is that okay? 5 minutes? Yep. So, just on this, so we talked about the social graph. I personally think it's fascinating the way companies now can tap into the social graph. And TripAdvisor really was one of the first in the travel industry that kind of got to grips with all this. From Hotwire's perspective, you're essentially an OTA. Do you think there is an opportunity for OTAs to do something with the social graph, or is it you're just in a different position in the kind of the purchase cycle for the consumer, or not?
So yes, I just don't think we've cracked the nut yet. All of us collectively, I think everyone's still trying to work out, is this about branding? Is this about customer care? Is it lead generation? Do you actually book while you're in a social network? So I think there's, everyone is just trying to figure it out and is attacking all of those different areas at once. What you're seeing, and it's not just our industry, right? It's any industry. Once you're in a social network, you're there to have a conversation with your friends. You're there to have a little bit of fun. You're not necessarily there to whip out your credit card and make a purchase. And you asked about whether or not it's age. It's not an age thing, because we know that, some of us middle-aged folks are on social networks, and we know that 70% of UK travellers are on social networks. So that's not actually the issue. It's really just working out how best to use it to convert them. And it may be that that's not the way. Maybe it is more about a comfort factor, and it's more about getting the word out. So it'll be interesting to see. Okay,
and as the sole supplier on the panel here as a hotelier, is it a selling tool? Is it a customer service tool? Is it a branding tool? What are you using, say, for example, Facebook for? One-word answer. Selling, branding, or customer service?
Well, it's branding first. That's my opinion. If I want to give you an order, like a pecking order, is branding, customer service, then selling or transaction. It's only until like a year and a half where actual transaction was possible on Facebook. Booking were made possible by just putting your dates and then being just thrown out to our booking engine, which is our platform. So actually, the transaction is not done on Facebook. but your query, the date of arrival and departure, is done on Facebook, then the transaction completion is on our booking platform. And I might touch to a point that you mentioned about OLTAs being on social media. I think maybe social media, I'm not OLTAs, but I know the model, maybe not all OLTAs can be successful in Facebook and social media because of the way they work. I know, for example, Expedia and family, Expedia and Hotwire are quite prominent in the loyalty thing, so people go to Expedia.com and make the purchase, rather than other OLTAs, which I'm not going to name, more prominent in the pay-per-click, the PPC campaign, where they actually, I'm going to say the word, they actually appear above the natural listing of hotels, not using other words, and actually divert the traffic from the website of the hotel or the supplier to their own website and actually convert their business. So I think these sort of OLTAs will not sit well in Facebook because actually people don't go to their website straight away instead of actually with Expedia. I'm not saying it's better or worse, it's just two different models, but quite interesting to see two different models, how they behave.
Yeah, I think on the social media angle, two examples I always bring up, because you're endlessly going to industry conferences or people talking about you need to do this in social media, you need to do that. Two really good examples. So Ryanair dismisses social media completely. It's one of the biggest airlines in Europe and has growing passenger numbers, question marks over customer service, as everybody knows. The other one is Booking.com, which famously said it had no need to do anything with social media, and it is OTA, and we all know what's happening to Booking.com. It's one of the biggest hotel sites on the planet. So I just think there is a tendency to kind of get wrapped up in what social media is all about, which is why the social graph element of social media is infinitely more interesting than just what social media is all about.
Marad, you don't really need to be on social media. I mean, it really depends on your model. What I mentioned before, you really have to think, does this match what you want to get across? Who's your clients are? Do they go social media? And they mentioned so many forms in the social media. That's why I put number 3 in terms of transaction or actually making sale. You should not bombard people on social media with promotion, pictures, menus. Just avoid it. Just let it feel like it's more of a chit-chat, more like a you belong to there just because you have similar interests, points. And then, if they like you, they will inquire. That's it.
Okay, so just in the last couple of moments here, it's going to be a question for all of you that I'd like you to answer and keep them as brief as possible. I'm going to go to TripAdvisor first. As industry watchers, we're forever looking for what the next wave of disruption is. Now, you could say that TripAdvisor was one of the largest kind of disruptors to the industry over the last 12 years. It came along and just really shook things up. So what do you think, is there a model out there that you think has the potential to disrupt, or what would you like to see come along next that could disrupt the industry? And presumably you would say that TripAdvisor would be one of those behind it as well, of course.
Well, I'd like to think whatever that thing happens to be, TripAdvisor are involved in it, and I think certainly we've put a lot of most of our investment in the last couple of years into mobile and into social, because I don't think that social graph has finished yet. I think we're probably very much in the early days of it still. So I think from our perspective, that disruption is going to continue. People are going, I think, travel and social, they're kind of inherent bedfellows, really. I think most people do have that kind of need to share their opinions about travel, whether that's with their friends or whether that's online. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Facebook. There's a lot of talk about their kind of financial situation and what's going to go ahead, but I think regardless of that, they shouldn't be ignored, and I think we'll hopefully continue to innovate and continue to work with them very closely on their instant personalisation, and make sure that if those conversations are happening online, that we're part of that conversation as well.
Okay, Maria, at Groupon, you have some would say, have disrupted things to a certain extent. So apart from what you've done in the disruption side of things, what else is coming along that has the potential to disrupt, whether it's consumer behaviour or technology or something like that?
Well, like you said, I want to believe that Groupon has disrupted the industry in a little bit in a way, but not obviously not in a negative way. I think we're making it more easier and more affordable for people to experience things that they would otherwise wouldn't be able to. So in a way, we see ourselves as a disruption. In terms of things out there that are happening right now, that I think again the mobile is something that is going to increase a lot. Having tablets that were not available last year is definitely going to make it easier for people to book their travels and so forth. So I think it's technology-wise.
Okay, Gilbert, you'd obviously say your particular hotel chain will disrupt people with the quality of the brand and all those kind of things. So, but apart from that one, you're in quite a unique position here on the panel as the sole supplier. So what would you say is the disruptive model, if there is one, or the way consumers are changing their behaviour?
Well, it's not really a model that I think is going to be disruptive, but my opinion is, I might sound a bit old school, but if we think just go backwards for about 30 years, how booking was done for hotels. Letter was sent out, 1 week later got by the manager, written, handwritten, dear general manager. When do you expect a reply? Week, 2 weeks. And fax came along, things were just popping out of the machine, and then you expect a reply in 2 days. And now, if you send an email, you're expecting a reply within an hour. I find it a bit sad, that's my opinion. The people are just sitting there waiting for you to reply. So my concern is more of the client side, because we've seen a lot of changes in the pattern and behavior. And this technology which allows this to happen, which is good. You have to harness it and use it to your end. But is there going to be a point where everything is done online? In terms of revenue management, people think revenue management is all about changing prices. The reason why people think that's the only thing they see, instead of forecasting, segmentation, because that's the only thing they see. So the most important thing that I say to my team, have empowerment. Feel empowered to speak with the client, check their profile. If I'm selling a rate of £330 and he pays £320 and that's a stumbling block for him to book, give him £320. I don't want this to be stumbling block. So I'm just worried about the time where things are going to be changed that much, where things are going to be done all online, no questions asked. You're selling this price. I'm going to go to another competitor. I'm not going to even ask you. This human touch, we always used to have this voice. And I was just saying earlier on that we do, for almost 6 months, we've been doing the No Email Friday. So to talk about this, it's always good to speak client. That's my only concern. Things are going to be so technical, things so seamless, which is good. But then there's no characters. There's no... hospitality is about intangibility, especially in the five-star market. It's intangible, something you don't know, but it's there. You're not going to get it from Facebook, even though it's a great tool. That's what I want to say.
Okay, and Fulvia, the final word goes to you. Rather than just saying that Hotwire is going to be right there in the centre of whatever disruption you're about to tell us about, I mean, just kind of slightly rephrase the question, and where do you just see all this in the next, say, 3 to 5 years, given what has happened over the last 3 to 5 years already?
So I definitely agree with social becoming an increasing force, mobile definitely becoming an increasing force, and potentially different inventory sources, so things like the vacation rentals and couch surfing. In terms of social and mobile, where it leads, I think and hope it's going to lead to increased personalisation. So more and more so, we're going to expect to have the right deal delivered to the right person at the right time, and we're going to be able to do that because we're going to have all of this data based on their social behaviour, and we know how to crunch it. We're getting better at predictive models, and based on the mobile habits, we're going to have more and more data just because people are online more often. So personalisation is really where you should be able to take those two.
I'm glad you're the first person to bring up data because, from our perspective, we see that as being able to crunch so-called big data and get more information just about the users is going to help suppliers in particular, but also I suspect everyone else on this table as well. So we're wrapping up now, so we probably could have done with another half an hour, but inevitably, and it's time for dessert. So if everyone can give a loud round of applause for the recording. And it's done. Thank you.